All right, welcome to the first broadcast of Buffalo Theater Guide Live. My name is John Szablewski. I am the managing editor of Buffalo Theater Guide, and today I am joined by Adam Kreutinger, a local celebrity in the theater community as well. And by local, I'm using that term loosely, right?
Yes. By celebrity, you're using it very loosely.
Very loosely. He's just has a very long bio in any show he does, so he has to be a celebrity. Today we're going to talk about Mean Girls. It launched its national tour here in Buffalo last week. We both had the opportunity of seeing it. We wanted to create a discussion because, it was such a monumental feat in Buffalo anytime that a national tour is able to launch here. And lately, it's been a trend. We've been lucky enough to have many shows. Last year, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory started its tour here. The year before that, On Your Feet, the story of Gloria Estefan. And the year before that, I do believe, was Finding Neverland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I didn't realize all those were started the tour here.
Yeah, and so it's really good for the area. It gets new people here, and it's fun for us because we get to see it first. So, we both were able to see the show. Obviously, we'd seen the movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And Tina Fey returns, and she adapts her screenplay for the...
And she was actually in town.
She was in town,
working on it, too. Yeah.
And one of the ushers that I am friends with that works at my school, she actually got to meet her and had a really good
Oh, my gosh,
discussion.
that's awesome.
It was great. It was funny because years ago when I was in film school, I met Rachel Dratch. And if you know Tina Fey, you know that one of her best friends was Rachel Dratch. They worked in the Second City together. And I said, well, my degrees of separation were like one. Between me and Tina Fey. Being a big fan of her work, obviously. Loved 30 Rock. Loved her book, Bossy Pants.
Oh, yeah.
I still read it.
I mean, the movie Mean Girls alone is become iconic. It's a cult. It's not even cult classic. It's just a classic.
And you know what? I think it's great because it's a coming of age story for people in high school. A lot of people can relate to it.
Yeah.
But then here we are in 2019.
Yeah.
And we have yet another Hollywood movie that has been created into a Broadway musical. Now, usually when this happens, I roll my eyes because I'm like, great, there's so much creativity here. We're able to, take some work that we've already created and adapt it. I saw it on the Tony Awards. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I missed that.
I honestly cannot believe it's still alive. But having said that, seeing it live as its entire package, I can say that I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
And I was entertained. And the interesting thing about that is I went in with absolutely no expectations of wanting to like this. This almost reminds me a little bit of Carrie the musical, where I said this is not going to do anything, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Right. But that being said,
well, it's funny you say you went in with no expectations. I think it's kind of impossible to go in with no expectations since so many people are so familiar with the movie. I think that at least is your expectation, and that's the hardest thing to get over, especially since it was such a good movie and has such a following. It does kind of have big shoes to fill. It
does, and when I say I go in with no expectation, I'm usually not expecting this to be a success, I guess to say. And if you go in with no expectations, in my opinion, as a reviewer, I can't be let down. I can only be pleasantly surprised.
Yes.
Which I was. Now, granted, Mean Girls, with it being an iconic movie, it was not one that I've watched often. I have seen it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have too. Like,
multiple times, but it has been a while since I've watched it.
It has been a while. So I just, seeing that we are able to go in and see the show that's been adapted, you're like, well, what can we do with this?
Well, it's one thing because it's going to be very similar.
Sure.
And that there's going to be some changes. So it's one thing is, and that's one thing with movie musicals in general that I find to be a little bit distracting is I tend to be a little bit more focused on like what's going to be different. Not even whether or not you like it, but just noticing that there are differences.
Sure.
And there definitely are. There has to be because it's a different medium. So.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I thought, and I want to open this up to discussion first, is the music. All right. So Jeff Richman, which is Tina Fey's husband, came on to write the music. Now,
really?
He did.
I had no idea that was her husband.
That's her husband. So it was. I'm hoping that it helped the relationship. There wasn't any stress.
We have to wait for the reviews for that.
for the reviews. But no, so here's the thing I had about the music. It's when you're taking a story that's so well known, traditionally the songs help move the story forward.
Yes.
Right. And we are able to take this music and we add it to the story, and the book writer, so Tina Fey in this case, has to structure it so that the story and the songs all move the story forward. I had trouble understanding what type of tone the show wanted.
Yes.
Was this a Broadway parody of like Broadway show music? Was this a pop rock musical? Was this just a parody in itself?
Yeah.
Were the songs good? I thought that they were well created. I don't think that they're memorable.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, what are we trying to be?
Yeah.
What were we trying to be?
Well, yeah, I'm going to add into that a little bit, too, because I know we talked about this a little bit the other night when we were talking about it. But I felt, particularly the songs in Act 1 are very less memorable than I think even the songs in Act 2. Mainly because I found that the songs in Act 1 seemed to have a lot of exposition and just kind of describing what was happening. Yeah. And one thing I know about storytelling is you usually want to show, not tell.
Sure.
And that's why I found a lot of the songs in the first act were kind of talky. And specifically, and the best example I have is "My name is Regina George, and I am a massive deal." Like, okay, she's literally telling the audience what her name is, and telling the audience that she's a big deal. When those are two things that you can show so easily.
Sure.
You know, and especially within a song that could have been such a great character building song. So, and then I'm watching the show, and I'm just feeling like they're just trying too much to be the movie in Act 1. But then immediately in Act 2, it was a complete change in tone in the songs. In my opinion, I felt like a lot of the songs were more of a metaphor and about something rather than just describing the action. Yeah. Opening the Act 2 with the social media song about stop. And again, what a great metaphor. And I found every song following that just really got me on board.
Yeah, and it definitely, what it was able to do in Act 2 is that ability for the musical, the songs to drive the story forward. I think that was more successful in Act 2 because you're able to keep the story flowing as opposed to just okay, this is what's happening here, this is what's happening here. Now, I will say that the first song in the show is called A Cautionary Tale. So just sitting in the audience there, you kind of know you're going to be told something.
Yeah.
But maybe having the characters of Damien and Janice, having them telling the story, it's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Because they were telling the story, then they disappeared, and then they came back, and they weren't very consistent.
Yeah. And even especially at the point when they're telling things that happen to them, or rather I should say when things are happening to them in the story, there was no wink at the audience or call back to the fact that they're the ones narrating it, which I think that would have been a stronger choice. It almost made me feel like the narration was an afterthought just to maybe make it the show a little tighter as a story.
Sure. But that too, like it had some sort of redeeming qualities here and there when they would be part of the story that they were telling. Now, something that I found very interesting too, the story has this part where it takes place in Africa, right? Because Katie, sure, okay. Sorry, Tina, because I know you're watching this. I apologize for butchering the name of your main character. I'm sorry, but I'm very impressed because Danielle Wade, who plays Katie in the show, I actually got to interview a few years ago when she was here with the tour of Andrew Lloyd Webber's The Wizard of Oz, and she played such an iconic role in The Wizard of Oz as Dorothy. So there's that responsibility as the actress to make sure that you're living up to expectation. So the same deal happens here because she is playing a character that's so iconic in pop culture, and I thought that she was able to take this character that's so well known by Lindsay Lohan and yet make it her own.
Yeah,
and that was impressive.
Yeah,
I thought that was very much impressive. Something that I didn't quite understand at the beginning, going back to the music, was it seemed to be very screechy, like we were yelling our songs a little bit. Like I know that we want to show off our voices of our actors and the vocal range, but I was like, everyone's yelling and being loud, and why are we yelling at me? What did I do to deserve this? Why am I touching?
That's funny. I didn't feel like they were yelling at all. I'll tell you one thing, which I wish we actually said off the bat. All the performance talent is unbelievable. It really is. It's there was no issues at all with anyone's performance by any stretch of the imagination. But then again, when it goes back to like more of like the structure of the writing of the show and the design of the show, and you're talking about the music, one thing that I kind of wish, because there's kind of like 3-4 main female leads.
Yeah.
If I didn't know who was singing what song and just closed my eyes and was just listening, I don't know if I'd necessarily be able to tell what character was what by the sound of their voice necessarily.
Sure.
I almost feel like in older musicals or in other ones that maybe I respond more to, like this character is like the soprano, this person's an alto, and this, so there's a little bit more differentiation of style. I feel like a lot of the styles of the song were the same too.
Very similar, yeah. Now Neil Simon, obviously one of the best playwrights on Broadway history, right? He said that every character should have a unique voice. So you should be able to close your eyes, like you said, and be able to know who's doing what. Even if you don't know names of characters, understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So I think that this is an interesting dynamic we have here, because there's so many similarities amongst the characters. Maybe that's a metaphor that we were aiming for that we may not have picked up on, where everybody was similar. We're more alike than we are different.
Yeah.
In this high school dynamic that they're setting forward for us in the show. Something to think about.
Well, I think we talked a bit about the music. Why don't we go on a little bit to maybe some standout performances?
Sure, we could do that. Now, of course, I don't have the playbill in front of me, so I don't have the names.
It's in my car. Actually, you keep talking. I'll see if I can pull it up online.
All right, so we're going to pull this up online. But the performances of every musical are very important, and I would like to point out that the ensemble, I always like to look at the ensemble, because just because the leads are out there doing their thing, the ensemble really drives the show. And luckily, there is an ensemble that's very tight here, and everybody deserves to be on that stage. There was not one person's performance that was not as strong as the person before them. So that is always awesome to see. There's a lot of times I've seen shows, both local productions and national touring shows, where there's certain people that stand out as, wow, that's an interesting choice for that part. But here, and you do have that expectation in a touring show where the ticket price is very, very high, that everybody is going to give you a great performance. So luckily, this works here. As Adam's pulling up who's playing, we got it. I think, do we have, no.
I almost have it.
As he's pulling it up, we'll come back to the performances, but I want to talk a little bit about the set design.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's a new trend on Broadway, because we have a very cinematic quality to our Broadway shows now, and that's to help audiences feel like they're at movies, to get a wider range of people to want to come and see what's going on in the shows. So years ago, I remember when Ghost the Musical came to Shea's, we used a lot of digital projections to make it seem very cinematic. And at that point, I was like, wow, that's very interesting to see that the two mediums are trying to converge. We also, pageantry, it's a big thing. People want spectacle. And this Mean Girls does have spectacle in it, where we have this awesome digital set design that changes so effortlessly.
Yeah.
Almost like film pans. And it didn't... When I saw it, I kind of was like, oh, okay, we don't have a traditional set anymore.
Yeah.
But
and it's not going back, especially for touring shows. If you want to see real sets, for the most part, my guess is you'll have to see local productions or go to Broadway. But I think that's going to be the future for virtually all touring shows. But I have to tell you that I've seen a handful of these kind of virtual sets before, and this one was by far my favorite.
Yes.
Because it wasn't really done in a kitschy kind of way. Like, it was really planned out well. And it felt like a real set.
It did.
And the way that it was incorporated with the scene changes, and even in the way, like, it's not even like they just, like, almost like a PowerPoint, hit next slide and it snapped. Like, I love the way they came up, almost like they would if it was a backdrop.
Sure.
And it felt very modern, but it felt very classic. And, I think it just fit very well.
You know what else I think really helped that, too, is they did have set pieces that they rolled on, like lockers and doors, the bedroom set and stuff. So those little things, in addition to the digital background, really, really helped create that old school set design that many of us are accustomed to. I think this is the is this the touring?
This is, I believe so.
No, this looks like the Broadway tour. I don't know.
Is this not the Broadway tour?
Those are not the names.
Oh, you're right. Those are not the names.
I think the Playbill one there you had those.
Yeah, that's where I found this. This is just an article like that there is a cast.
Yeah.
And then there are the names, some names there, but it doesn't say like who played what.
Okay. Oh, right there. Go up.
What?
Right there. Okay. So Regina George, Mariah Rose Faith. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about her because she had, I thought, a we love to hate her and we hate to love her persona.
Yes.
Which I've used a lot in a lot of my reviews I've written. It's one of those cliche terms that are a blanket term, but I think that she did a very good job of being so despicable.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean she came off very plastic. Yeah. Which is what she was supposed to do. It's supposed to do, But but one thing I want to point out too is the Gretchen Wiener's character was so great too, and she had such a good voice. And then what's the third character's name? Wait, who played? Oh yeah, Karen. That's right, Karen.
So let's see here. We have the list here. It's just a matter of okay. So
Haley, right? Oh no, Megan. We are
very
Masako Haley.
Yeah,
is Gretchen Wieners. Yeah.
Yes.
She had a knockout voice.
She did. And they all complemented each other very well. You have your leader in the Regina character. You have your wanting to be the follower and trying to do everything she can to make herself sound is one of them. And I like that of all the characters in the show, Karen, I felt was the most real. Really? Even though she's like a dimwit, right? She had the most heart, and she was unapologetically herself. Yeah, because she didn't know any better. But it was very, very impressive. Yeah.
No, she was. I have to say, for me, my standout, and I don't think I see the name here, but the guy who played the head mathlete guy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! In my opinion, he stole the show.
Yes. And
there it is. Kabir Barry. Kabir Barry. Kabir Barry.
We apologize for the butchering of your
about
name.
That. But Kabir Barry was fantastic. In my opinion, he stole the show. I don't think it was too much. And you know what? I kind of wish the rest of the show was at this level, because in the beginning, like you said, you didn't know what the show was like really trying to be, whether it was a parody or a pop. I wish it was a little bit more campy.
Yeah, I could see that benefiting the work.
Yeah,
like a nod to the audience that we're hitting the points from the movie, but we're also being a little.
Taking it further. I think that's what you have to do, because you can't take a movie and then tone it down for stage. If anything, for a stage, you have to be just like anything. You have to be bigger gesture. Yeah. And I think even in the content, in the writing and stuff, that should happen as well. Yeah.
No, I think that's a valid point. What is really interesting about these movie to stage adaptations that we're seeing more and more of. I mean, if you just look on stuff in New York, I mean, almost everything is based on something else. I mean, there's very few original stories. And yet, anytime there is an original story that makes it out there, it's a success. Usually. Yeah. Usually. So
well, you don't hear about the ones that don't. There's usually not a headline thing that this show you've never heard of failed. Whereas this blockbuster movie made a musical and it failed. Whereas again, we're not talking about Mean Girls, but like a good example would be Spider-Man: Turn Off the Dark.
I mean, I'm sure they're still paying off the medical bills.
Oh yes,
for that show. Ouch. I'm sorry. We're probably blackballing ourselves right now for ever working with any of these people because
you're going to be auditioning for touring shows soon.
Yeah, that's I do that in the off season. I like I like to do that. Let's talk about the experience from the audience perspective.
Okay.
So,
well, one thing I want to say before anything else about just walking in, seeing how many people were like dressed up in pink, kind of had dressing up essentially like the characters, which I did not expect at all when I was going there. But I noticed it immediately. Yeah. I was like, wow, people are really excited about this, that they're dressing up.
You know, Shea's, the petite lobby and the grand lobby were even lit up in pink.
Oh,
which,
were they?
Which was great. So, you know, this is really taking this show and saying, you know what, this is such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal for Buffalo because the tour has to launch somewhere. So it's amazing that we get it first.
Yeah.
You know, and I would like to also mention, too, that our discussion of the show, we're not trying to destroy it. We it was great to see that this is happening, and we want this to happen. And I think it's going to continue.
Yeah,
it's going to continue.
Oh yeah, we're not.
But because I mean, who are we?
Yeah,
we're two guys with webcam. Great. Yeah. But no, it's really cool to see because you know, as a reviewer, it's very rare in Buffalo to get to see new stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you look at, we have, 30 theater companies in the city, and, you know, we like to do our tried and true classics. You know, it's nice to see some of the community theaters starting to do contemporary works that aren't done here. So it's, or original work. So when this happens, it's a big deal. So it's something that I'm excited to see continue.
Yes.
Where were we going with this?
I don't know where you're going with that part.
Oh, audience.
The audience. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so you know, when you go to Shea's, it's very rare that you don't see it sell out. You know, I mean, it seems like they just put out that.
Well, they have such a great season ticket
season,
subscribers.
Right? Yeah, I think this is one of the most exciting seasons I've seen in a while. Where every show, it's something for everybody.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you have Mean Girls, which is really good for the young demographic. You know, people
come from away,
which I've seen in Toronto, and I'm so excited. You know, I was just reading that they extended again in Toronto. This is like the third or fourth time that it's extended. So it's a great show, and we get to have it in Buffalo, and I've had the opportunity to see. It's great. Jesus Christ Superstar, which is one of the biggest classics. You know, it only gets better. Hello, Dolly, which is a classic Jerry Herman show coming. And then you have new stuff like Anastasia.
Yeah. You know, that'll be interesting, too.
Yeah. And
is that brand new touring, right?
It's the brand new tour. It's not launching in Buffalo, but it's coming here. The band's Visit, which just won the Tony Award for Best Musical, not this past year, but the year prior. And then we have, like, Escape to Margaritaville, which is a Jimmy Buffett musical, which I'm interested in seeing.
Oh yeah, I wonder. Do you know what kind of style of show that is going to be? Is that going to be like a Jersey Boys thing where it's about them, or more of like a Mamma Mia where it's a new story revolving around his music?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like to go in with an open mind and see.
You like to go in walking with no expectations, knowing nothing,
right. And having an opinion about it. Yeah, because this is the American way, right?
That is. Everyone's got a webcam.
We all have a webcam. Look. Here we are. We have 4 subscribers right now, and it's our moms.
Yeah.
So and Adam's wife and my girlfriend. So that's what we got. So you know, I think that Mean Girls is a great example of a show that, and I've said this to you before, and it's going to be a controversial statement, and I like to open with controversy. It doesn't have to be good.
Yeah.
Is it the best written show? Not at all.
Yeah.
Is it entertaining? I thought so.
Yeah.
I was entertained. I enjoyed it.
Well, do you know what? One thing I wonder if they had in mind, because like on one side, me personally, I would have loved to see it get a little bit more campy, you know, and I would have loved to see it taken to the extreme, you know, and in my opinion, that would have been a stronger show. But one thing I wonder if they were specifically kind of writing it in a way that it could later be adapted for like high schools and stuff to be able to do it. Because if they took it too far, they probably couldn't. So it could be like the next Legally Blonde, where they're doing that at high schools. Yeah. Be the next Shrek musical, where they're doing that at high schools.
Sure.
So I wonder if that's kind of why they made it a little bit, you know, softer around the edges.
You know, that's a really good point.
Because you know every high school is going to want it just because of the name alone.
Yeah, it's going to sell tickets. I mean, the brand recognition really, and I think that's why Broadway is so branded right now. It's what are we going to do? You know, what are we going to do to sell tickets? And you bring up an interesting point with that, because I always thought that when you would write these shows, that you would want to have that in mind, right?
Yeah.
That the scores may not be that difficult. They'd be challenging, but not to the point where some of the scores are so difficult for musicians to play that may not be professional musicians.
Yeah.
So, when
Sondheim, right?
when a high school does like a show like, because I play in the pits every once in a while, so we do like The Wedding Singer, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That was not written for a high school musician to do. Let me tell you, I got my butt handed to me on that one. You have Mamma Mia, which has been simmered down a little bit.
Yeah.
Where it's a pop show,
Sure.
which is a little easier.
Well, that's not musical music either, though.
Exactly. No.
Yeah.
But some shows you're like, wow, you have a community theater where they may not be paying their musicians, and they're like playing like their show that changes key 15 times, and you're like, my hands are like this when I'm finished. I realize some people may be listening to this, so I just bunched my hands up like I have arthritis. So that's that. But I think that's interesting. I have to say that I really like this way of discussing the show where I don't have to write something.
Yeah, well, hopefully we can do a little bit more of this, because I think it would be, I think it's just great. It makes it a little bit more accessible to the audience and people wondering, because sometimes people don't have time to read something, but they can listen to something.
Yeah.
And I think that's good, and hopefully people will enjoy this on replay and whatnot.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I tell people all the time, because I think sometimes there's a traditional a difference between reviewing and criticism.
Yes.
And I don't think people always get that.
Yeah. So, you know what, though? I think we can keep talking about it now, but I think that would be a good standalone video in itself.
And maybe we should do that for a standalone. Because especially...
Because people may not get to this part.
They've turned it off, and they're watching your video on opening Sesame Street characters. Toys, But I would like to point out the Andy Warhol mug, and if you could look here real quick, Mrs. Doubtfire, which I guess is coming to Broadway, because another movie.
It was a run by Fruiting.
One of the best lines.
I don't know where this mug came from.
I don't know, but I'm glad it's here because it helped kill some time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Adam, for joining us, or joining me rather. There's nobody else here.
Yep.
Nobody else wanted to show up. It was great fun. I hope we can do this again. And I'd like to hear what you think about this format. If this is something that you'd be interested in seeing more of, let us know. Leave a comment, because we're always up to new things, trying new things, seeing what works, seeing what people would enjoy.
Yeah. All right.
Within reason. So
thank
you. Take care.